Before the start of this video, I want to wish a happy new year to everyone. Also, a little heads up. Since this video will introduce you to the endgame tier gear and augments, I assume you have already reached level 100, and have followed my previous gearing guide or had up to par gear. If that's not the case, I strongly recommend you to go check out that video first. With that out of the way, let's start the video. What's the best in-slot weapon in base PSO2? The answer is Lightweave Claws. In 99% of the situations you'll be using Claws weapons over anything else. Claws weapon features the highest base attack, is capable of all weapon SGAs from S1 to S5, and has a useful potential that either lowers your PP cost or gives you super armor and damage reduction. Generally, assuming both weapon has the best augment possible, damage of a Claws with base pot is slightly higher than Fluxio's damage even with Fluxio's pot active. And if Claws' pot is active, Claws just straight up beats active Fluxio. How do we obtain a Claws weapon? By going to Zig's weapon exchange, we can see that a Claws weapon requires the corresponding Darkweave Agile weapon at plus 35 enhancement level, 150 Darkstone Deimos, a Powerstone Grai, 4 Lumen Crystal Grania, 50 Diard, and 300 corresponding class X cubes. Here, I will go through each material starting from Darkstone Deimos. Darkstone Deimos comes from content related to the Primordial Darkness, and it's also the material for making Darkweave Agile. Powerstone Grai is a super rare item. If you have previously played PSO2 just before NGS launch, you probably have a spare Grai from Mission Pass that was discontinued right before NGS launch. However, for anyone who started post-NGS, there are only 3 guaranteed source for Grai, which are: Reward of clearing Ultimate Sodom at depth 50 for the first time. Reward of clearing Ultimate Sodom at depth 100 for the first time. Title from clearing the Primordial Darkness Urgent Quest or Trigger 50 times. The fastest way to get your first Grai is from depth 50 Sodom. If you start from scratch, you'll need at least 5 days to get it since you can only clear Ultimate Sodom 10 times per day. Keep in mind that it does require some amount of skill to clear Sodom at depth 50, but it should be a piece of cake if you are already using Fluxio or Agile, and learned your class for a decent bit. Lumen Crystal Grania comes from doing Divide quests. As I mentioned in my Divide quest guide before, you'll really want to exchange all 4 Grania per month since it's the only way of getting it indefinitely. Outside of monthly Divide exchange, you can also get 3 Grania from clearing stage 35 in Divide quest, and 2 Grania for reaching 3 million Divide quest points in a week. These 2 sources are one time only, but it's enough to make your first Claws. Diard comes from dismantling 15-star weapons, or you can buy it from the player shop directly. As for the class X cubes, you can obtain those by overleveling after level 100, joining some of the ultra-hard urgent quests, farming solo ultimate quests, and buying it from treasure shop. The most efficient way of farming class X cubes is from depth 1 Masquerader. With 15-star weapon damage bonus, depth 1 Masquerader dies in seconds, and you'll get 0 to 4 class X cubes, which depends on your rare drop rate. You can clear Masquerader 50 times a day, so on average you can get 300 class X cubes in 3 days, assuming each run drops 2 X cubes on average. Finally, we have the plus 35 Agile. If you've exchanged an Agile weapon from Zig before, you'll notice that it only comes with an enhanced cap of plus 30. To increase the enhanced cap of your Agile, you'll need to get more copies of Agile, or use enhanced cap plus 1 item, or a mix of both. Once you get a Claws weapon, you'll have the option to swap its category by giving Zig 999 Sapphire and 999 corresponding gold material. Next, let's talk about units. Usually, you'll want Claws units for all 3 unit slots, as they provide the highest base stat all around. However, 3 Claws units will not provide the highest attack stat. If you want to maximize attack, you can use Claws Back, Atlas Arm and Atlas Leg, at a cost of much lower stat everywhere else, especially in defense. Therefore, I recommend using 3 Claws units to maximize overall stats. To obtain Claws units, you can pray for it to drop for you in TPD urgent quests, but don't rely on it since it's super rare. The more practical way is to head to Zig's exchange shop and exchange for Claws units using Darkstone Deimos and modules. Shiva module is basically free because she will drop 3 of those every time. For other modules, the comfiest way of getting those is from weekly Divide quest rewards, which is covered in my Divide quest video. Other than that, you can use the divide room holding farm to farm Verena and Exegil modules, but it's not an option for Mitra modules. If you're in a hurry, you can also buy those modules in the player shop. With that out of the way, we're now entering the most difficult part of endgame gearing, which is affixing. Before I go any further, I want you to look at this specific augment. This is Guardian Soul, the ultimate augment in this game, providing the highest possible all stat with just this one augment. For endgame affixing, we will be affixing Guardian Soul along with other endgame tier augments. How to make a Guardian Soul? According to the infographic shown here, you'll need Astral Soul, Ether Factor, Mana Reverie, and Absolute Glare, which are the ultimate augments in different episodes. And to make those ultimate augments, you'll need different catalysts, which come from miscellaneous augments from the contents of each episode. This sounds like a lot to take in, and it sure is. Luckily, we can ignore a lot of the stuff in this infographic, since Cradle and some other contents in ultra hard difficulty can drop catalyst augments directly. For more information on that, you can check out my Cradle of Darkness guide on what augments to keep from Cradle drops. Now, you've learned about Guardian Soul, and it's time to figure out what other augments to put on your gears, starting from weapons. Claws weapons can have all kinds of weapon SGAs from S1 to S5, and the best options for each of those varies depending on your class and weapon. I won't be listing the best options for each class and weapon, but I'll show some generally good options. For S1 to S3, you'll go for either APP build or Petal build. APP build is for classes with 100% or near 100% crit rate, since Precision Will 2 requires critical hit for more damage. On the other hand, for classes that struggle to get high crit rate, such as Luster and Hunter with Luster sub, Petal build is the better option since it provides unconditional damage boost as long as you can keep Petal Gleam active by doing damage. For S4, Escalating Pursuit is the general option if the weapon doesn't need any other specific S4 options, and for S5, Skillful Adept will provide crit chance, lifesteal and damage all in one augment, making it the best option for weapons that can reach 100% crit and have no specific S5 options. With SGAs out of the way, there are only 3 slots left for regular augments. One of them is definitely Guardian Soul, and what else for the other 2 slots? There are a lot of options. If you can afford those, Grand Attack Capsules are basically the best option after Guardian Soul. Otherwise, Graceful Attack Capsules are fine as well. As for the third option, if you're on classes that can inflict Gelen, including Hunter, Phantom, and Femel style Luster, you'll need Phrase Decay from Basilisk Weapons Augment Factor, just like in my previous gearing guide. For other classes, you can choose any of these instead. Also, if you prefer all attack in case you're swapping weapon category for a different type of weapon, you can swap Grand or Graceful stat with another all attack augment shown here. Once we select the 3 regular augments to put on a weapon, we'll need to affix them together in a single recipe. For example, this is a recipe for making Guardian Soul, Grand Precision, and Phrase Decay. For Astral Soul, affix it with an 8-slot Union weapon. For the other components of Guardian Soul, just simply make them with your 8-slot Catalyst fodders from Cradle drops. Then, add a +35 Basilisk weapon for Phrase Decay and a Grand Precision capsule, and you're done. Simple as that. However, you might notice that the success rate is only 65% and this factors in the 15% boost from PSO2 day and 40% boost from using augmentation aid items. The solution to this is, deal with it and gamble through this 65% success rate. If you failed, farm all the Guardian Soul fodders from Cradle, and try it again later. This is also the reason why some people use Graceful instead of Grand Capsules, since the Grand Capsules cost a lot, especially if you failed the affix. By the way, if you somehow have access to Augment Guidance, you can affix it to your Claws weapon before the final step, and get an additional 5% boost in success rate. Also, if you choose to affix Mana Reverie in one of the final augments, it can be a bit complicated. Here is a recipe for Guardian Soul, Grand Precision, and Mana Reverie. To affix Reverie Catalyst with other augments together, you'll need an 8-slot Profound or Starquake weapon for its Reverie Catalyst augment factor, then affix Reverie Catalyst along with other augments at a 100% success rate. You can get Profound and Starquake weapons in Mining Base Ending Urgent Quest at extremely hard difficulty or higher, and it's highly recommended to do extremely hard difficulty since ultra hard is actually difficult for an average pub group. With the help of Reverie Catalyst augment factor, the recipe becomes much easier to make. Next, let's talk about unit affixes. This will be the longest part of this video, so please bear with me. Last time when I introduced budget affixes for units, it was directly affixed at 6 slots. However, this will not be the case for endgame tier unit affixing. Take a look at this example of an endgame unit. It is at 8 slots, which is the maximum amount of slots possible, filled with endgame tier augments, including Guardian Soul. This is close to impossible to be directly affixed at 8 slots. In fact, it is affixed at 4 slots, and it gets the rest of the 3 regular augments plus the SGA later via augment transfer. We will talk about augment transfer later, and focus on affixing the 4 initial augments together first. To make an endgame tier unit like in the example, the first 4 augments to be affixed are Guardian Soul, Mana Reverie, Ether Factor and Crack 5. This is called C-Mag Affix. The recipe for a C-Mag Affix is like this, and I will go through each of the fodders to help break it down. The first fodder is Guardian Soul, Mana Reverie, and Ether Factor together, which is affixed via another recipe shown here. Each of the 4 ultimate affixes can be made via their corresponding catalysts, and for the 2 receptors, head to Nanon's Rising Weapon Badge 5 exchange shop to obtain those. Once everything's set, you may notice that the success rate is merely 27%, and this is with PSO2 day 15% boost and 40% augmentation aid. First, you will want to use Augment Insurance 4 slots to protect the affixing process. 4-slot insurance can be obtained via a couple titles, and to get more insurance, you'll need to exchange 10 base AC items, including Recycle Badge. Second, when every fodder in the affix, including the main fodder, has the exact same name, you'll get a slight boost to the success rate. Since the 2 receptor units are solid barriers, it is highly recommended to affix each of the 4 ultimate affixes on solid barriers as well. Third, from title rewards and SG scratches, you can get augmentation aid items that are better than 40%, and now it's a good time to use those items since it will drastically improve the success rate. With the biggest and most important fodder out of the way, the rest of the fodders are just a piece of cake. For the Soul Receptor and Factor Receptor together, head to Unique Weapon Badge Exchange Shop to exchange it with 400 UWBs. As for the Crack 5, people had to make it from Crack 1 in the old days, but right now they can be dropped directly by Shiva from Divide Quest Stage 35 and Final Lament Urgent Quest. With every fodder in place, it's time to affix this ultimate 4-slot base. Just like before, it's mandatory to have 4-slot insurance, and you may want to use the same equipment bonus and better augmentation aid items to increase the success rate. This will be the hardest part of endgame unit affixing, as I've showcased how frustrating it can get in one of my previous videos. Also, please double or even triple check before clicking the affix button, and make sure your insurance and augmentation aid item are in place. Do not let misclick waste your hard-earned fodders. Once you've successfully affixed all 4 augments, congratulations for passing the hardest part of unit affixing. The next step is to add the remaining augments, which are Grand Stat, Stat 6 and Mark Joy from the previous example. Grand Stat Capsule is from the player shop at a pretty premium price, and the other 2 capsules are available in SG Scratch. Yes, at this step you have to spend your precious SG for your gear progression. Once you've got all the capsules, you can start the augment transfer process. In an augment transfer process, all regular augments on the target item will be wiped, and all regular augments on the fodder item will be moved to the target item. If the target item does not have enough slots to hold all the augments from the fodder unit, the extra augments will be discarded. On the other hand, if the target item has too many slots, it will get down-slotted. This information doesn't seem to help us in adding additional augments to our 4-slot base, but there's a catch within the augment transfer system. The catch is, you can use an augment capsule during the transfer process. For example, if we use a mark capsule to transfer our 4-slot base to another item with 5 slots or higher, the target item will end up with 5 augments, which are those from 4-slot base plus the mark augment. Also, since SGAs are untouched during an augment transfer process, we can do something like transferring 6 regular augments plus an augment capsule to an 8-slot unit with an SGA. With this in mind, we can easily figure out the process of adding Grand, Stat 6 and Mark capsules to the 4-slot base you've just affixed. First, we transfer the 4-slot base to a 5-slot unit without SGA, using a capsule. Then, we transfer the new 5-slot unit to a 6-slot unit without SGA, using another capsule. Finally, we transfer the new 6-slot unit to the final 8-slot unit with an SGA. This final unit will be the unit you're gonna use, so make sure to give that unit an SGA, and upslot it to 8 slots. For reference, here is a video clip of me transferring affixes from a 6-slot unit to my final 8-slot unit.
Okay, so this augment transfer thing is pretty neat, allowing you to only affix 4 augments, then gradually add other 3 augments via transfer process and capsules. However, what's the cost of a transfer process?
Good question. To use the augment transfer function, you'll need this super duper ultra premium currency in base PSO2, called augment transfer pass. In an augment transfer process, the amount of augment transfer pass required is determined by the number of slots on the target item after the transfer process. Therefore, for our transfer process of 4 to 5, 5 to 6, and 6 to 8, we will need 140 transfer passes in total. This is also why we choose to do 6 slots to 8 slots at the final step, so that we can skip the 7 slots which cost 50 passes.
Then, how do we acquire additional augment transfer passes?
First of all, many titles will reward augment transfer passes, including titles related to Solo Ultimate Sodom. Second, Tokyo Rainbow Key will drop 5 transfer passes, but the key is very rare, and you want to do all the recommended quests to have the best chance of getting it. Third, when you've gotten all the transfer passes from titles, the only way to get more transfer passes is from monthly Classics Cube Exchange. In the limited Classics Cube Exchange shop, you can exchange Classics Cubes in 4 different categories to transfer passes, for a maximum of 10 transfer passes in each category, and 40 transfer passes in total.
But what if I can't farm certain types of Classics Cubes, because none of my classes in that category is leveled?
In that case, you'll have to resort to the treasure shop, in which you can find Classics Cube of any category sold here. The treasure shop only sells 10 Classics Cubes per day, so keep checking it daily until you can buy 20 Classics Cubes for the Classics Cube category that you cannot get normally. Also, I previously mentioned that you need 140 transfer passes for a full-fledged 8-slot unit. Then, for 3 of those units, you'll need 420 transfer passes, and that will take months and months of Classics Cubes exchange to get there. Some people don't want to wait for that long, and settle for 7-slot units or even lower. In my opinion, this is perfectly fine, as people should have the right to plan for what they want to achieve in this game, and the difference of 7 slots and 8 slots is literally just 1 augment. My advice here is, do not regret any decision you make. This means, if you think 7 slots is fine, then it's fine. However, do not regret and complain that you have to spend extra transfer passes and or other resources when you want to min-max more on your gear later. On the other hand, for those who are willing to wait for 420 transfer passes, you'll need to live with the fact that you are unable to use your fully affix units for a while until you gather enough transfer passes. When you finally gathered 420 transfer passes and transferred your best affixes to each of your 3 8-slot units, congratulations for finally reaching the top of the hill. Finally, we're reaching the end of this video. Before ending the video, I want to talk about base PSO2's Endgame Affixing before the NGS launch. At that time, people strive for a different 4-slot affix, which is Crack 5, Veterans Resolve 5, Absolute Glare and Guardian Soul. The reason people were doing this instead of CMAG is because Mission Pass capsules were available, and you can add Ether Factor and Mana Reverie during the augment transfer process. Right now, we can no longer obtain those capsules, and CVAG Affix is way harder than CMAG Affix due to Veterans Resolve in the mix, and lack of Glare Receptor in global PSO2. Though, it doesn't stop some mad lads from making this godlike affix directly at 6 slots.
What the fuck?
And, I'll be one of them, as I'll be making one such affix at 6 slots during the next Ultra PSO2 day. Speaking of Ultra PSO2 day, we will be having it on February 2nd and 22nd. In Ultra PSO2 day, the augment success rate is boosted by 30% instead of 15%, so it's a very good opportunity to affix your endgame gear, and I'll be using this opportunity to attempt the 6-slot ultimate affix, which is sorta doable with the 30% boost. Phew, this is the end of this video. I'm sorry for not uploading after quite a while, and I thought this video won't be taking too long to make, since base PSO2 gearing and affixing are the topics that I'm super comfortable with. However, I was very wrong. Just simply look at these to figure how much time I've spent on this single video. Anyways, thank you so much for watching all the way till the end, and I really hope this video can be a good guideline for those who want to strive for the best in base PSO2. Here, I will say the following for the first time, and it will not be the last. If you find this video helpful and or enjoyable, please like this video and subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.